Gary Gensler, you're fired. Folks, it's coming. You heard it from Trump yesterday. We're going to break it down, the main points from his speech, and then I want to dig into how he can actually get rid of Gary Gensler, folks. This is going to be an exciting update. The past 24 hours have just been incredible. President Trump hopping on the bandwagon, the Bitcoin, the crypto, have fun playing with it. His final statement was just so perfect, right? Have fun with your Bitcoin, your cryptos, and whatever else you're playing with. I love that. But once again here, this is the shift. It is underway in the fact that Trump is willing to say that he's going to fire Gary Gensler. What does that mean? Because as a new president, you can appoint a new SEC chair, but how can you actually fire an SEC chair? More on that later. Now, we were watching the market live yesterday as Trump was giving the speech, and we did get that big correction that I was calling for, but it was actually quickly bought up. And here we are, as I record this update this Sunday, we're still holding 68,000 for Bitcoin. So although we did crash very quickly during the speech, it was bought back up. It was recovered. Even though Trump said that we're not going to be buyers of Bitcoin, he said that we're going to be hodlers of Bitcoin. So more on that here shortly. Here's a look at the charts. Like I said yesterday, it got volatile. We were all the way up to 69,500. This is the 15-minute chart. I was watching this thing zoomed in on the 15-minute as we were recording the live update yesterday during Trump's speech. And this thing quickly tanked all the way down to 66,620 while he was speaking. And then shortly thereafter, as he finished the speech, we started to pump back up once again, back above 69,000, and we've settled in here at about the 68,000 range as I'm recording this update here for you guys. And so the market took a little blip down, but then we recovered back up. XRP shot all the way up above 61 cents briefly earlier this morning in the middle of the night. And as I'm recording this, we're still holding 60 cent XRP. So I'm still predicting that we're going to actually get more. I'm interested to see how the markets open up tomorrow morning. And so I'm recording this at 1:30 West Coast time, 4:30 Eastern. So the futures markets haven't opened back up yet, but the markets are going to open back up tomorrow. And I'm interested to see how this trades because crypto is holding up over the weekend, but we're seeing a lot of bad signs in the macroeconomic situation, and the markets, the broader stock market already started to roll over. So that's going to be something that we're going to be watching closely. But nonetheless, my prediction that we were going to see the market correct during Trump's speech or by the time he took the stage was absolutely spot on. It started to fall while we were waiting for him to get on stage. And then during his speech, quick one down to 66,000. And that liquidated a lot of people just in that move. So let's watch this market this week. We'll be updating you further on that one. Now, this one was interesting. We have a major power outage hitting Paris less than 24 hours after they get a little bit silly there, huh? What do you guys say about this nonsense over there in the Paris situation in the Olympics is specifically what I'm talking about. Unbelievable. Details are still emerging, but a large-scale blackout could disrupt the plans, and I think that they've got it back on. But once again, this is why we had a prepping call just about a week ago in my Discord group, is just to refresh our group on what we can do, plug in the holes on our strategy where we're not ready, because you don't know when it's going to happen to you. And you don't know why it's going to happen. Like I said, there's dozens of different black swan scenarios that could play out. As long as we got our basics covered, we can ride out 90% of the storms. Let's get right on into this crypto update, though. Absolutely massive. So John Deaton spoke at the Bitcoin conference yesterday, and he came onto Twitter after the Bitcoin conference speech that he gave. This is what he had to say. Calling out Elizabeth Warren, John says, I and 75,000 token holders, including 627 holders from Massachusetts, proved that Elizabeth Warren was on the wrong side of the law when a lifelong Democratic federal judge appointed by President Obama agreed with us and cited my efforts in the Ripple XRP case. I predicted that if Grayscale or others sued the SEC, similar to how I did, that they would win as well. After Grayscale sued, the Court of Appeals ruled the SEC's denial of the Bitcoin spot ETF was arbitrary and capricious. In other words, the appellate court ruled in essence that the SEC needed to grant the Bitcoin spot ETF. Despite that ruling, Elizabeth Warren argued that Gary Gensler and the SEC should defy the court's order and not grant the spot ETF. Elizabeth Warren's complete lack of respect for the law is utterly shameful. Senator Warren's claims to be for the poor and middle class, yet wants to ban an asset class that could help lift people out of poverty and expand prosperity. The good news, change is coming. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is because a lot of people in the XRP community were like, oh no, what's going on, after it was revealed that John Deaton keeps about 80% of his wealth in Bitcoin, right? So he holds more Bitcoin than he does XRP. But I'm sharing this with you guys to, exemplify that John hasn't forgot about the Ripple XRP battle. He hasn't forgot about what he did in this case. He's still very proud of what he did in this case. And he's still citing this case for how Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler have been reckless and out of control and overreaching their jurisdiction, slowing up what should have been an easy process to approve a Bitcoin spot ETF. Just one of many things that they've done wrong. And we'll speak more on that here briefly. But don't worry, just because John holds more Bitcoin than he does XRP doesn't mean he's not still with the XRP army, okay? Is that going to be the first thing that he mentions at a Bitcoin conference? No, but he hasn't forgotten. And like I said, as John Deaton goes viral, as John Deaton takes a real fight to Elizabeth Warren, our XRP story rides along with it. Absolutely. All part of XRP going viral. And the link for John Deaton is down in the description of all my videos if you want to support him. Now, this is Peter Schiff right here responding. He says, Trump compared today's Bitcoin industry to the early days of the U.S. steel industry. But America was built on steel. It used to make skyscrapers, bridges, cars, ships, trains, appliances, etc. Bitcoin isn't used to build anything. It's merely a digital blockchain ledger. Now, I do find it funny how Peter, he always takes a dig at Bitcoin, but now Peter's starting to come around to crypto, right? Because you could argue that Bitcoin is more than just a digital blockchain ledger. I mean, in essence, yeah, you could simplify it down to those terms, but it's part of creating a new financial system. But the assets that are going to do it better and the technology that's going to do it better is the XRP ledger and others, right? Stellar Network, other blockchains where you can actually get something done. That's part of building the new financial system. Bitcoin, okay, does it create a new financial system? It's peer-to-peer cash that's inefficient and expensive, so it's good for that. But there's better options for actually creating a new financial system. And the reason why we call it the fourth industrial revolution is part of a story with AI and new technologies that are, going to be a new industrial revolution, not just here in this country, but worldwide. Now, here's the main points that Trump covered yesterday in his speech. Let's run through it. First off, fire Gary Gensler. We'll talk on that in a second. And that got the best response from the crowd by far. So good that he said it a second time. And he specifically used the word fire Gary Gensler. He's going to create a presidential advisory council. You guys let me know in the comments who you think should be on that presidential advisory council. I think we got a couple good options at Ripple that could be there to help. We will never have a CBDC. He's going to protect the right to self-custody. And this one was critical. He says we're going to use stable coins to expand US dollar dominance. Gee, it's not like we've been talking about that one over here, right? We've been saying that this is how, if the U.S. wants to get their crap together, pass stablecoin legislation and allow private issuers to actually, get some business done here, it's not just going to be Tether, it's not just going to be Circle, it's going to be Ripple and others that are increasing the usage of U.S. dollar derivatives through stablecoins, through Tether, through, Circle's USDC, and obviously Ripple's ready to fire up their RLUSD as well as many more, right? So the fact that Trump reiterated stablecoins is how we expand U.S. dominance, well, I wonder how productive those meetings that the Trump White House had with Ripple were. I wonder what was discussed in those meetings. Interesting. Then the big one, he says that we're not going to buy, he didn't say anything about buying Bitcoin, but he said that the Bitcoin that's been confiscated already, we're going to hold. Okay, so we're going to be Bitcoin hodlers, and we have about 1% of the total Bitcoin supply, about 200,000 Bitcoin. That's a big deal. Just the fact that we're going to be hodlers, that's a pretty big deal. And then the one of the first things that he actually said, I didn't expect him to say this. He actually said that Bitcoin is going to overtake gold. Now, I don't know if he's talking about the market cap of Bitcoin alone, or if he's talking about the overall cryptocurrency space. I think it's very easy to see that the overall cryptocurrency space is going to overtake gold's market cap. But to suggest that Bitcoin is going to overtake gold, that's a pretty bold prediction, right? And it's definitely possible if, Bitcoin does have some staying power and hangs around, and obviously the inflation that's, going to be coming back no matter who gets elected, in my opinion, does take Bitcoin to a much, much higher price. The technology I have some concerns about, but, we'll see its staying power. But to say that this is going to be bigger than gold from a guy in Trump that loves gold, that was a pretty big statement. So those are the main points, but I want to hone in right here on Mr. Trump, President Trump, I should say, saying that he's going to fire Gary Gensler. So Wrath of Conman put out this tweet. He says, everybody remembers that the president of the U.S. can't remove the SEC chair, right? Supreme Court ruled on this before. Presidents can't remove appointed heads of regulatory agencies. It's why politicians tried to introduce the SEC Restructuring Act in 23. Well, the thing about this is the president gets to come in and appoint a new chairman, and he can select out of the 5 commissioners that are there, right? So Trump could come in and he could pick Hester Pierce. He could pick one of the other commissioners to be the chair right away. That's something that he could do day one, right? But as far as removing the chair, you need some more. You need a little bit more to be able to actually remove them. Now, so I was going through different conversations on Twitter and looking this up, and this guy Macaulay was having a conversation here with Travis Kling, and he says, if the new chair is chosen from the existing SEC commissioners, they can begin serving as chair immediately upon the president's designation. Gensler could remain, but not as chair. Now, I Googled this as well, too, just to look. The SEC has 5 commissioners who are appointed by the president, and president is advised by the Senate. They do hearings on it, right? And Gary Gensler was brought in 2021 by Biden, right? Members are appointed by the president with the advice and consent of the United States Senate. The president does not have the authority to remove members once they are confirmed, and their terms last 5 years. But take it one step further. I found this article from Cointelegraph. Lawmakers introduce bill to remove SEC chair, but do they have the authority? This is what Wrath of a Conman was talking about, right? And this was introduced by Warren Davidson, the SEC Stabilization Act, which was for firing Gary Gensler. When we look at this one right here, a 2010 Supreme Court decision ruled that commissioners could not be removed by the president except for certain circumstances qualifying as standard of inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. Now, you guys let me know in the comments down below if you think that Gary Gensler has engaged in a standard of inefficiency, if he's been neglect of his duty, or if there's been any malfeasance. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Now, I also looked up the Chevron ruling, and this is the one where the courts now get to decide and should rely on their own interpretation of ambiguous laws. So laws where there's ambiguity and the SEC and other agencies had just assumed that they could interpret the law, the Chevron doctrine now being overruled and overturned. This was the big change that we just got here on June 28th. And this now says that it's actually up to the courts to interpret the law, where the Congress has not provided clarity and the SEC is trying to make a case. It's up to the courts to actually decide. But here's what I want to talk about with this one. What's so fascinating to me about Trump's statement is that he continues to say that he's going to fire Gary Gensler. Now, Trump is someone who understands this. He understands that he can't remove Gary Gensler unless he has those special circumstances, which is a standard of inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. Or ask yourself this, just answer this simple question. Why does Trump, every single time he talks about Gary Gensler, why does he bring up that Gary Gensler was the CFO of the criminal campaign conspiracy? And I'm not going to say the name of the presidential campaign. It starts with a C. I'm not going to say the name. But why does Trump always bring that up? Every time he addresses Gary Gensler, he mentions that he was the CFO cutting the checks for the criminal campaign conspiracy. Why does he always bring that up? What kind of dirt, what kind of evidence does Trump have on Gary Gensler to so boldly be able to claim that he's going to fire Gary Gensler? What does he have on him? And so it's a tough case to be made to actually remove Chair Gensler completely unless you have inefficiency, neglect of duty, malfeasance, or some sort of other criminal activity that relates to that, which Trump very well could have, right? What happened when Gary Gensler was CFO? What all happened back then, right? I'm not going to get into it here, but you guys know the deal. And there's a reason, right? It's not just a mistake. It's not just because it's funny, right? There's a reason why Trump says that every single time he talks about Gary Gensler, he talks about that criminal campaign conspiracy. Now, Tony Valentino shared this one. I thought that it summarized the past 24 hours and really just the past few weeks, really, as the political tides have shifted. Anyone noticing we have moved up a crypto notch? A concerted campaign to pump Bitcoin is underway to draw the world into the biggest crash known to man. Intentionally mixing the traditional finance system with crypto bad equals the crash of all crashes. The phoenix will rise. And to me, this is kind of how that moment feels. It feels very similar to back when, during Trump's administration, the CFTC approved the CME futures market for crypto, and it actually ended the crypto bull run, and they bragged about it. So the Bitcoin bros forget about this one. This was during Trump's administration. He let the CFTC go about creating the CME futures for crypto, and this is what ended the crypto bull run last time around, especially for Bitcoin, right? And so are we getting set up again? I think that we are. I think that you saw a little blip with that, falling off in the market during Trump's speech, but I don't think that we're done. And it's because I think that you have broader macroeconomic situations and the equity market starting to correct. And I think that crypto is going to get brought down with it. But the positive thing, the part that makes me so bullish, right? After all of this that's now being talked about in this political shift in DC, where both sides of the aisle want to be into crypto, Kamala Harris wants to have a reset with crypto companies, right? This is why I still remain so bullish. And even though crypto probably is going to be brought down a little bit, as everything around us is going through a broader correction, crypto takes a hit, but it recovers faster. As I always say, we rip the Band-Aid off in crypto, where we get big liquidations, but then we start pumping back up rather quickly. And as you can see from Trump's campaign, a lot of the Bitcoin bros are thinking this is only good for Bitcoin. That's not the case. This is good for the entire cryptocurrency space, especially as he mentioned specifically stablecoins, increasing adoption and expanding US dollar dominance. Who do you think he's going to be calling up for that Presidential Advisory Council? Folks, I have never been more bullish on this space, but despite the bumps in the road that we're going to go through between now and the election, it's very clear. Massive wave of liquidity, massive wave of money printing to cover their butts. It's the perfect alignment for another massive bull run up for the broader cryptocurrency space. XRP will partake this bull run. You're already seeing that gold and silver have made their move, and I think there's some more to have there too. If you guys need precious metals, it's at ZachRector.com. But folks, I've never been more bullish on this space. President Trump's coming back. The Trump pump will commence. God willing, we can make it through the storm, the chaos, the bumps in the road. And as soon as he gets back, it's going to be straight back to work. The greatest transfer of wealth in world history. If you appreciate our updates, you guys know what to do. Everything's at ZachRector.com. I will see you guys in the next one. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.